Hello and welcome back to my channel, and thank you for tuning in. Sorry I've been away for a bit, but I've had so much on that I haven't been able to stop. But I have had time to make a few of these cushions recently, some for a fundraiser and some for myself, but they're quite pretty. They're lovely on summer benches, which are really hard on your bottom, and nice on garden chairs as well. So they're reversible, two different types of patchwork, all machine done. You could do it by hand, but it would take you a long time to do this by hand, so really you do need to do it on a machine. As you can see, they equally look nice on the front garden or on the back garden. These chairs are not as hard as the bench, but even so it's nice to have one of these pillows by you. They're all different patterned material, plain material, so you can use up as many scraps as you want. Some have zips in, some don't. That is entirely your choice. So let's get on and have a little look at them, shall we? These are the things that you'll need to make the cushions. An iron's essential because you have to press every seam. Scissors, pins, zip, ruler, cottons, pencil, and 2 cardboard templates. I've used just an ordinary piece of card that is 5 centimetres in depth. The length of it doesn't matter, and you'll see why later. And a 14.5 centimetre card. And you need to cut 9 of these for the particular cushion that I'm showing you how to make. You can cut as many as you like. If you want a bigger cushion, you just use a bigger template. You'll also need pieces of material. I'm actually using an old pillowcase with some colours that I think go. So, but you can make whatever colour you like. So the first thing you need to do is use your template to cut out your squares and your strips of material. I usually start on the squares, and as I said, you'll need 9 of these. And then just lay them out as you go into a pattern that you are eventually going to use. Then you need to cut some long strips using the template again. As you can see, they're all different sizes. It doesn't matter because we actually join them together, and so the sizes doesn't matter, or the length rather doesn't matter. The size does the depth, but they're 5 centimetres as I've said earlier, but the lengths, just cut as many as you want. Don't cut too many to begin with because you can always cut more later. I've cut quite a lot here because eventually I want to make 2 cushions that match. But anyway, just cut out your lengths and just get them all ready and laid out. Okay, so once you've got your patterns cut out, keeping the patterns in the correct formation, take the top 3 and just pin that one to this side, open it. It is worth taking a bit of time with this because I've done it many times and I've pinned the wrong bits together, and then you end up having to take them to pieces, and that side as well. So that's your first 3. Then you need to stitch down the seam here, down the seam here, and press it nice and flat. I use the width of the foot as a guide to my seam, depending on what you want to do. Obviously, if you use more, your squares will be smaller, but that's what I use, and that is roughly 3/4 of a centimetre. Once you've done that, do the next 3, then the next 3. Once you've laid them out, I'll show you the next step. So now you've sewn and pressed all the pieces of material. Don't worry if they're a little bit off like that one is. At the end we square it all up and it's fine. All we do is match the seams with a pin, match this seam with a pin, and then just sew all the way along this row and the next row. And that basically is the one side of your cushion. It's a very simple patchwork starter for anybody that wants to start on patchwork, or even that wants to start with sewing. I would highly recommend it, and it is fun. And as I say, these bits won't matter at the end. You'll see how we tidy them up and sort them out. I'm not a perfectionist, as you know from things in the past, but I don't think many of us are. So there we are. So we get that sewn and then press it. So I'm just going to straighten up this edge now, cut off this tiny piece where it's a little bit bigger. Obviously I've shifted the template as I've done it, but because it's just a straight line, it's not hexagons or anything like that, we can do that. And it's a good job to do it now, because then when we come to join everything together, we're keeping our seam allowance correct, and it just makes it all a little bit easier. So just make sure that that's okay. I think everything else is all right. It's a little bit, as you see, I'm not perfect, but I think that does also show that we're all human and everybody can have a go at this. So there's our first piece of cushion, and there's my camera, there we go. That's the first piece of it. Now, normally I would leave it like this. I've made many cushions. This is going to be for a fundraiser for my, I belong to the Littleborough U3A, and so they've asked me if I could make a couple of things for their table sale, so I'm going to. So I'm going to try a little bit of a plique on here. I like a plique because there's an awful lot of plain squares. So I'll show you how to do that, but you haven't got to do it. Basically, this is the side of your cushion. I've got these pieces of material and I want to applique some of the pattern materials that I've got here onto my plain squares. So I've used Wonder Web, and if you do use this, the sticky side goes down. And I know that sounds silly, but I've done it many times and messed it up. And you just iron it onto the piece that you want to cut out. It's easier to do it first because then it makes it much stiffer to cut out. So I quite fancy trying a flower and a leaf. So I'm going to just now iron that onto there and put it with that, and then come back and cut it out and see how we go with that. So now I've cut a leaf out and a flower, and I've laid it on the little square that I'm going to do it on, and I think it needs another flower. So I've done that. It's backed with the Wonder Web, so all I do is peel that off, and then I lay it where I want it to go on my square, and then iron it on. I hope you can see this okay. The sun's really bright in here today. We shouldn't be complaining about it, should we? But I can't seem to block it out. But this is now ironed on to the square that I wish to put it on. I think it looks quite pretty. I've worked out the size of zigzag that I want to use. I've not got a fancy machine, as I've said before. If you've got a fancy machine, then you can probably do a satin stitch on this. But I haven't, but I think this will be fine. I'm going to put it onto the smallest stitch that I can do it on, and just a small stitch on the zigzag piece. And I've changed the cotton to the turquoise so that it matches around the flower. So I'm just going to do that now. I'll come back and show you when I've done it, if it works out. If not, I'll have to start again. There we are. This is the finished applique. I think it looks quite pretty. It's okay. Well done with the zigzag. I think it looks quite good, actually. I might even do a few more strips of sewing on it. I may, when I've sorted myself out here, put another applique on one of the paler squares, but we'll see. But for this particular project, basically the first side of the pillow is finished, and now we're going to start on the second part, which is a very different sort of patchwork. I'm sure that if you sew, you've seen this before on YouTube or many other things, but it's very simple to do, and it's just literally joining the strips together. But I think it is quite attractive, and it's very easy to do. So we'll do that next. So we're going to start now to make the second side of the pillowcase using the strips that we've already cut. To begin with, you need to put two pieces of material together, two strips of colour or pattern, whichever you want. Using your guide here that you've been using to cut all your strips, I've marked mine 6 centimetres in, and I've said cut 2 to start. It just makes it easier. Then all you do, mark it down there and then cut it, and that starts you off. Now I've already done that with this one. Then you lay the two pieces together and you sew down the short edge, okay, not the longer edge, the shorter edge. Open him out, flatten him and press him. So once you've sewn your two pieces of material together, your starter piece, this will be right at the centre of your cushion, and you've pressed it. Decide which you want, which colour that you want next. I'm going to have this one. Pin it on like this and sew all the way down the edge to the end of the material. When I've done that, I will do the other side exactly the same, turning it, laying it on here, pinning it and sewing it, and then I'll come back to you. So there we are. That's what we've done so far. I've pressed it flat. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put another piece on like this, exactly the same. It's just repeating yourself all the time. It's just that your pieces are getting bigger, that's all. So I'm going to put another piece this side, and then I'm going to put another piece this side, and I'm going to keep going round and round and round. You always have to remember, the most important thing is, when putting your new piece on, make sure that you are sewing it to the piece that has the diagonal lines going down. Otherwise, you're going to end up with something like that. Okay, and that is not what you want. You want to square it up all the time. So all the way along there, press it flat, then maybe another colour, all the way along there, press it flat, trim it up, and just keep going all the way round. As I go along joining my pieces of material, you don't need to use a single colour. In fact, it's much more effective if you don't. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to join quite a lot of different pieces together and use those, and you'll see at the finished article how nice it does look. I've not got a lot of the blues or greens, and so I'm going to cut them into smaller pieces and use the longer pieces for the material that I have got more of. So let's see how it goes. I'll come back when we're nearly to the end. So now I've nearly finished this side of the cushion, and I think you'll agree it looks quite pretty. You use any colours you want. I'll show you a bit later on some other things I've made using this method, because once you've mastered it, you can use it for anything. Now, because of the nature of the pillow case that we're making here, because we've used 9 squares here, and because each time you do this, this side of the pillowcase you're adding on, you will always get either a slightly smaller square or a little bit of an oblong. Unless you make these pieces a little bit wider each time, then I think it would probably work as well. But this is just as easy a way to do it. So I've nearly finished it. This is my other side of my pillowcase, and all I'm going to do is put it like this so that it near enough matches up edge to edge. You're going to be a little bit off, but not very much, except one side, and you can see which side that is. It's this side. So all I'm going to do is add one piece on to the side that is too short, and it's as simple as that. And I'm going to add that on now and then show you when I've finished the finished article. Okay, so I've finished that now. I've pressed it. I've laid it on top of the other side of the cushion, and I've just neatened up the edge just to make sure there's no funny little bits sort of sticking out and everything, so it's easier to sew. So you'll see when the finished article's done, you'll have this on one side, this pattern, and this pattern on the other side, which is quite pretty. But as I said before, you don't have to do this one. You don't have to do this one. You can make up your mind which one you do. Once you've done that, put the two together. Now, if you are going to make your own pillow for this, which I am, then you need to measure the two sides, and you need to cut a piece of white, cream, whatever material you've got to make your pillowcase. And what I would suggest you do is you make it 2.5 centimetres all the way around less than this one is, because it's going to puff out anyway, and you don't want it too tight really. You can always make this a little bit smaller if you find you've cut it a bit smaller, but 2.5 centimetres all the way around before you sew it is best. Once you've sewn it, obviously you sew it all the way around, and then you fill it with stuffing, not too much but enough to your what you like really, and then you just fold over one side of it and stitch it along the sewing machine. But I will show you a completed one. So I've made my cushion, and that's all ready to go in. Now I'm going to sew up my side seams, and I'm going to put the zip in. If you do it with a zip, you don't have to, because you can sew all the way around, which we will be doing anyway, without a zip, and they are washable. You can just put them straight in the washing machine. I've done it both ways, but for this purpose I'm going to put in a zip. The easiest way I find to put in a zip is to do one side flat, then the other side flat, and then sew all the way around the edge. This zip's a wee bit long, but it won't matter at all. So start by pinning or tacking. Leave yourself a bit of an edge there, because you're going to be sewing up to that edge. So just tack or pin your zip in place, just the one side, and we're only going to do one side at a time. So I'll just get on with this one, and then I'll show you the other side, and you'll see how we put it all together. But I just find this is the simplest way to do it. So I've put one side of the zip in. I've left a gap at the edge on both ends of the zip for sewing up the side seams. As I said, the zip is a bit long. It really doesn't matter. It's going to be inside the pillow, so you can use old zips if you've got them, or if you haven't been able to get your hand on the right size zip. Now I'm just going to match up my edges like this, and then pin it exactly the same way as I did before, all the way down to the end, and then I'm going to sew it the next size in. So I've sewn my zip in both sides now, and I've pinned all the way around. We're going to sew right up to the edge here on the bottom of this zip, and right up to the edge here on the top of the zip, so that we can get in and out of it, obviously, and then all the way around the edge. And leave the zip open before you start sewing, or else it's very difficult to get your hands in to get the zip undone before we turn it inside out. What I normally do as well, all the way around, I'll do one straight stitch, and then I'll zigzag all the way around just to tighten up and neaten up the edges. So there we have it. I've turned it inside out. Everything's ready. The final thing to do now, and this is optional, if you want to do it, do. If you don't want to, don't. I usually do, is just do a running stitch all the way along the edge, all the way around. I think it just reinforces everything, and also it just makes it look, you know, just a bit nicer, I think. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back to you with the finished cushion. So now we have it. What I've done is I've decided to do a double stitch, because I used two different colour threads. I used turquoise, and I used this mustard colour to match the materials. I've done that. So I've decided I went all the way around with the yellow mustard colour, and then I went all the way around the edge with the turquoise, so that you've got the two different colour threads, which I thought looked quite nice. Now all we've got to do is get our pillar inside, fluff him about a bit. I mean, you may like your pillars filled more than this. It's up to you. I personally don't. I think they look nice, a bit sloppy actually, but it's entirely up to you. But so that's our finished cushion. That's that side, and that's that side, but both are pretty. I'm now going to get onto the other one to make it match, and I'll come back and show you when they're all finished. So this is done exactly the same way, just with some wadding and different pieces of material, different colour. And this is just some seats I made for my kitchen chairs. This one, again, exactly the same way. It's a pot holder or a pot stand, but it's quite pretty. Again, oven gloves. I've done oven gloves, and all in exactly the same way, except you can see what I've done here. I've done it on the diagonal, which I thought just was a bit more interesting for this particular thing. And then inside, I've done it on the square again. And other cushions that I've made. This is one. That side, this side, or you can have that side, or you can have that side. So it just shows you what you can do with these. Do have fun. Do let me know how you get on, and good luck sewing. If you're pleased with it and you like it, please subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye, and enjoy the sunshine.